for you, you really believe in yourself in order to lead others and create that infrastructure. But then where do you think the motivation comes from to not only have that success at Solidcore, but then also back on my feet and not give up when you hit some, because obviously we've talked through some of the headlines and some of the stuff we've seen or you've experienced. Every founder, I think, goes through challenging times, but it seems like you've also taken kind of a beating in some of the cases, especially when you're trying to do good. And so how do you keep that drive to keep, believing in yourself and not get down on yourself when you feel like maybe you've failed or you're at those difficult times?
Yeah, I have so much to say on that topic because of what last year sort of brought with the running a fitness company during the pandemic and cancel culture and everything else. But I'll first start by saying of just like, if you don't have resilience, like you're just not going to make it, right? Like when people are going to come after you, people are going to say things about you, you're going to get surprised, people are going to quit, you're going to have to fire people, things are just going to happen. And one of the quotes I've heard, and I can't remember who said this, about like, all business is solving problems. Like you're going to have to solve the problems. And that's the way that like, you got to be prepared for that. And it's not going to have this trajectory that how you think it's going to go. Our first studio, we got evicted because we couldn't attenuate the sound. It was traveling to the apartments above, and the landlord, they didn't do a fitness deal before. Like it was my first space. Like we just didn't know what we didn't know. And I'm like, I had 2 or 3 other studios already open at the time, but it was like, what? I'm being evicted? Like that happened really early in Solidcore's journey. And I was frantic and frazzled. And then, then I have an ex-boyfriend who sued me. And then I had someone else who sued me. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like this, what is happening? But you sort of, all of those things, I'm really grateful they happened because it just takes a lot to rattle me now. And there's no book you can read that will prepare you for that. You just got to go through some of that shit. Sorry if I can't swear, apologies. You just have to
I'd rather have you be raw and real. Yep. No, go for it. Yeah.
You just have to go through some of it to realize of how you're going to respond and behave. Are you going to crawl underneath the covers and hope that it goes away? Or are you going to fight? And an interesting thing that I've learned about being a woman and being an entrepreneur, society in the media was much kinder to me when I was an entrepreneur in the nonprofit space, right? I was helping people. The number of awards and accolades, and it's kind of insane. And then I get to Solidcore, and there's much more controversial things that have been said about me or written about me in my time at Solidcore than at Back on My Feet. And, I have my own theory on that, which is just that even though we talk a lot about women empowerment and progressive and everything else, I still think the world, also why I think Hillary Clinton never won the presidency. People were just not ready for that caliber of success for women. And the media has not been super kind about that. They've gone after, criticized my wealth, criticized, my success, tried to downplay it, pull my successes away from me. And, at some point you're just like, I'm fighting back here. Like you can create your narrative, but I'm not going to sit here and take this. And I think that was a big difference. As you mentioned, cancel culture, a lot of female founders, because that's who we are. We apologize. Oh my gosh, we hurt someone's feelings. We're compassionate. We want to make sure everybody's taken care of. And I think if you're going to be a founder and be female, you have to be okay with not being liked. You have to be okay with people saying things about you. And I am unapologetically who I am. And that does not mean that I don't apologize when I screw up. That means that I am going to own, I'm a demanding boss. I have high expectations. I work really hard. I expect you to perform well. I expect your work product to be good. And I think there's still a lot of people that want their female boss to be kinder, to be sweet, to be compassionate. There's so much data out there about hard charging dominant females and how the world doesn't like them. They want them to be more feminine. They want them to sort of stay in their place, whatever that is. And that doesn't mean don't have a career, but it means have an appropriate kind of career for a woman. And I don't tolerate that.
Yeah, so maybe that's why it was fine in nonprofit, because it seems more softer heartstrings, more emotionally connected versus something that's okay. Yeah, it's
It was like
interesting.
this, I walked away from like a high paying corporate job to help the homeless.
Yeah.
People could, and I'm from North Dakota, I'm blonde, I'm white. Like there couldn't be enough storyline to just be like, this woman is sacrificing, everything to help people. And it was just this feel good story. And yeah. And it's like, oh, now that she has a for-profit company and making money, like, we don't like that. Like, we don't like that.
Which is really a shame, and I think, the other hard thing is, and I'm not trying to hate on women, most of my team is women, but I'd say that it seems like a comedian once said a joke about why Hillary would never be president is because women hate women. It's not because men hate women. I think that there's still a big cultural aspect in terms of the world where there's names that women are given when they're hard and strong that men would never be called. And I think we're all aware of that. Yeah.
Well, a prime example of that with all the articles, and some people might not have any idea what we're talking about, but because I'm a female founder, I'm in this space, there's so many articles, whether it's The Wing, Away, Everlane, Glossier. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And it was like the Me Too movement happened, and it's like, oh, white female founders are next. And there was definitely some justice in the Me Too movement. So I'm not saying that. But when you read the things about the female entrepreneurs, like, these women didn't do anything. It was that they were hard charging bosses and not doing enough for social justice and other things. And it's like, so we got all this pressure put upon us that we never signed contracts to say that we're going to do these things. And it's not that we don't do those things in Solidcore, right? Like, we actually have a pretty, I think, vocal voice on social issues, and we've been first out of the gate in a lot of places. But that's not the job that I have as the CEO, right? My job is to run a profitable business. And so all these expectations that got put, if we weren't fulfilling this ideological role of the woman CEO, it's like we were lambasted and raked over the coals. And it's just like, what is going on here? And then there was this article that came out about Howard Stern, where same kind of context, all these ex-employees, talk about what a horrible boss he is. And I will paraphrase or make an adjustment to what he said, but he was pretty much like, I could care less. And that was the end of the story, right? But these women, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I didn't have a good experience. I'll spend the rest of my life thinking about this. We just go over the top. And he was just like, you don't like working for me. Next. Like, it was just so, like, made me just laugh out loud of, like, the man versus the woman.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was the context, the story was over. But then
it was over. It was totally over, and no one said another thing. And it's sort of like, I wonder what that would look like if women were just like, I'm not going to entertain this question. I'm sorry. Like, you didn't have a good experience. I can't promise a great experience for everybody who works here. And if you're going to give this anonymous feedback through a piece of media instead of actually coming and doing it in a way that shows you're trying to be helpful and supportive and really help me grow, like, that was just an effort to be mean, to try to hurt. And I'm like, I don't respond to that approach, and I don't respond to comments that way. That's not a respectful way to give somebody feedback.